Hello, everyone. I'm Dion Cook from Avixa, and welcome to Elevate Your Digital Signage, Appspace and ChromeOS, presented by Mike and Will. This webinar is brought to you by our sponsor today, Appspace. Before I hand the presentation over to today's presenters, there are a few housekeeping items that I must address. First, for the CTS holders among you viewing our presentation live, today's webinar qualifies for a half renewal unit for the CTS and for the CTSD, but none for the CTSI, unfortunately. Please allow up to 7 business days to view those on your transcripts. If you have any issues here, please email the Avixa webinar team directly at webinars@avixa.org. Today's presentation should last around 60 minutes and all attendees have been placed on mute. If you have any questions during our presentation, please enter them into the Q&A window so today's moderators can address them at their discretion, either during or towards the end of the presentation. To access the Q&A window, move your cursor towards the live stream video box, locate the Q&A icon, and type away. Just please be mindful that there is a separate menu for the chat and to not put your questions there. I'd like to reiterate that you will have access to the recorded webinars on the Avixa website at webinars@avixa.org within about 5 to 7 days. That's all from Avixa for now, and on to the presentation. Please take it away, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm seeing some welcomes from different cities, so I'll chime in. Welcome from San Diego. Good to have you all. Today, we're going to be exploring how Appspace and ChromeOS can revolutionize your approach to digital signage, making it easier to manage, more secure, and more engaging for your audience. My name is Mike Rumley. I am a partner engineer on Chrome and ChromeOS at Google. And myself and my team work with our top enterprise software partners like Will and Appspace, who are here with us today. Will, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Mike. Hey, everybody, I'm Will White. I'm Director of Technical Workplace Experience at Appspace. What that means is I'm on our Workplace Experience team, which is the team that really helps all of our users, our customers, just get the most out of the platform, deploy it, roll it out, devise strategy, create content, right? All the fun stuff when it comes to communication and workplace experience.
Thank you, Will. So we have an exciting agenda lined up for you all today, and here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the current state of the world, and we're going to move into our Google and Appspace's vision for the future of signage. Along the way, we're going to cover challenges IT departments face with digital signage, and then we're going to move into exploring the key benefits and synergies of ChromeOS and Appspace, and finish with a live demo so you can see everything that we've been talking about, and then jump into Q&A. So with that, I'll turn it over to Will.
All right. Yeah, let's dig in here. So where I want to start is current state, right? Or current state for a lot of folks. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of folks out there who are challenged to communicate to their employees, communicate to their colleagues, especially in the world of digital signage, as it's a great avenue to get important messages right in front of the right set of eyes. But it's not always easy, especially not always easy when you already have a lot of systems in place and architecture and things that can produce some challenges. So let's jump into what that might look like, right? And I imagine with this audience, some of these things are going to be pretty familiar. So what are the costs? What are the challenges of having outdated signage systems and outdated supporting systems that go along with it? Honestly, one of the costs is the literal cost, right? The actual cost to maintain these kind of legacy systems or disjointed systems. A lot of times they require, on-site support or specialized knowledge, right? The one person who knows this old piece of software on the team that has to be pulled in, right? There's a true cost to that. And in fact, legacy software and hardware, by some estimates, is costing US companies over $1 trillion annually. That's not just signage, but it's a part of it, right? There's a lot of inefficiencies and redundancies and just wasted time and money because of these outdated systems. That set itself comes from Accenture. Another stat from them that's pretty interesting is that 72% of C-suites out there we'll just straight up say that these kind of like legacy platforms are actually holding their company back, right? Limit the rate at which they can grow, at which they can execute. So it's a big deal. It's not just a big deal for the immediate stakeholders, but for companies at large, these kind of outdated systems and the challenges they present. Another big one, which I know we'll talk about, is that legacy software can be vulnerable to security risks and data breaches. Again, I imagine this audience is pretty savvy to that, but it's something to consider, especially if it's software that you might not interact with daily, because maybe you have your corporate communications people, your HR people really being the ones jumping in and publishing digital signage. But this is critical, right? Any vector of attack, of security breach, has to be considered. And legacy platforms that don't take it as seriously, well, that can be a problem, right? And that can end up being even more costly than just the maintenance costs. Another big thing with kind of legacy or disjointed systems, right, is that you end up with static content, right? Older signage platforms, older communication platforms, even if they're maintained, right, might not have the integrations you want to get dynamic content, on the screen, dynamic messaging out to the right set of eyes. And similarly, right, difficult to use older platforms, you're just going to get less engagement from your communication stakeholders, from your HR professionals, from whoever is actually getting messaging out there. If the system's old and no fun to use, well, they're not going to use it. Content's going to get static and stale, and you're going to lose that engagement with your target audiences. And then finally, of course, when you have the older systems, it's difficult to scale. So maybe you've had some success, you want to capitalize on that, you want to expand your messaging, you want to expand engagement, keep building company culture. It's that much harder when you have to worry about all these headaches behind the scenes just to add a few more digital signs or onboard new sites or whatever the case may be. So what does it look like if you're able to kind of put all those things in the past, right? Get past some of those hurdles? Well, it looks like embracing a truly kind of dynamic signage hub, right? A single system, a modern system that meets those challenges and can go beyond. So as I was mentioning before, right, instead of static screens, old looking content, creating actual dynamic communication hubs, not just passive digital signage, not just a simple message, here's the HR message to get this or that form in, but truly enhancing the signage experience to make it something more, to build culture, to foster engagement, to actually get people interested, right? Not just like a static, the equivalent of, a piece of paper pinned on a poster board. You want something that's going to catch the eye, right? And that's where this can become very critical. Similarly, on the back end, right, centralizing control, automating tasks and reducing workload. I know that's got to resonate in every potential category for every topic, right, for this audience. That's day in, day out reality, but anything that we can do, that you can do to meet those needs, right, to make as much automation as possible, kind of fire and forget system, so you're not worried about it day after day. When you do need to make a change, expand whatever it is, it's easy from a central location. I mean, it's huge. It makes everyone's lives easier, including those communication professionals, right? Because they don't have to wait, they don't have to worry. They can just get their message out. And then, of course, right, that security point, it's another one you just don't want to have to worry about. You're going to be thinking about it, but you don't want to have to worry about it. And I think that's critical to ensure that there's not going to be some costly or painful situation that arises there. And then I think what ties all this together, maybe even goes a little bit beyond it, is boosting that ROI, right? That return on investment of your tech investments that you've either already made or you're going to be making, right? You're going to be spending budgets regardless to enable the things that your company, your stakeholders, your colleagues need to do. So you might as well get the most out of it, right? Might as well get the most use cases, the most capability, so you're not going back to the drawing board a year later looking to spend more money. Right? No one wants to do that, so that's where we want to end up. Just a couple of examples of what I mean when we talk about kind of more dynamic signage, more dynamic communications, more engaging, right, communications. Just a few examples here. One, for example, is actually getting communications into the meeting room. So we'll touch on this later, but for example, Appspace and Google Meet work together. That actual Google Meet hardware, a collaboration device, right? Actually showing content, showing messaging when it's not being used for a screen share. So when folks walk into that conference room, that huddle space, whatever it is, they can not only see kind of, again, traditional messaging, but maybe live metrics and dashboards, things that they might want to be aware of before they start their meeting, or the ever popular room instructions, right? So as soon as they walk in that room, they're not looking for like an 8.5 by 11, printed piece of paper that tells them how to start their meeting. it's right there on the screen. They just look at the screen, tells them what to tap, they tap, they're good to go. Hopefully they're not calling up the IT team or whatever, facilities team or whoever, because they can't figure out how to get their meeting started. Huge advantages there, right? Synergies on synergies to leverage this digital real estate. Similarly, a great use case, not that it's one you necessarily want to use, but a great one to have in your back pocket is the ability to get messaging out at a moment's notice. So when you have your digital signs, your collab devices, maybe it's like room booking panels, kiosks, video walls, even employee mobile devices, all tied to that same kind of platform, you can get a message out when you need to. So when a fire alarm triggers, right, everyone gets alerted by whatever screen they're looking at, personal or in the office. I mean, the power there is immense. And the power is there even for non-emergencies. Like, hey, town hall's about to start, right? You want people engaged, you want people to join so you can get that message out there. Another one that I'm excited about is, again, taking this type of platform, right? Digital signage beyond the traditional just message on a wall to something that's truly engaging. So one of the things that we're doing on the Appspace platform is creating kind of a 360 feedback loop. So if you've got content that's published, let's say, directly to employees and they're engaging with it, they're doing some of those social features, hitting like or love, leaving comments or so on, let's show that level of engagement and excitement on the digital sign, right? So if I'm walking past the sign, I see that it's got all this activity, I see the comments flowing in, well, I'm going to be much more likely to actually go look at that content, right? Maybe go beyond the headline on the sign and read the full article. And similarly, maybe auto-generate that QR code on the signage so I don't have to look it up. I can just whip out my phone, scan the QR code. It's going to take me right to that exciting content. So I could also join the conversation. So again, it's taking what might have traditionally been very traditional, passive, static signage and building that culture, building that engagement beyond just getting that maybe top-down messaging out. So how do we do all those things, right? I gave some examples there, some use cases, but what does it look like to actually deploy this? That's what we want to dive into now here in section 2, specifically some of the things around Appspace and ChromeOS that can help enable that experience. Before we dig into details, one thing I just want to note is that Appspace and Google at large, especially the ChromeOS team, we've partnered for a long time. I think our first integration was in the early 2000s, which is really a calendaring integration with Google Calendar. But since then, it's been a great partnership. In fact, when we revamped our digital signage app that actually powers all the screens that run Appspace back in 2016, ChromeOS was the launch partner, right? That's who we primarily developed against and then expanded after that. Similarly, we've renewed that partnership in 2021. We've seen a lot of exciting things. So it's been a great journey, and that's why I'm excited to be able to co-present with Mike here. So all that being said, let's jump into it. What does that modern solution perhaps look like? I would say, in my humble opinion, right, Appspace and ChromeOS do help you deliver that sort of experience, that dynamic communication and that ease of management. A big piece of that is the foundation, which is ChromeOS, right? It's a secure operating system, which Appspace can then layer on top of very easily and effectively to actually get that content out there, right? Bring that content to life and get it to the right screen at the right time. This is another thing where, again, trying to reduce workload, trying to reduce headaches of IT employees and other related folks, any kind of tech team, because of the ease of deployment. And we'll get into that here in a minute. But that ease of deployment, the ease of rollout, the security, it just it makes it a little bit easier. And then, of course, right, got to highlight Appspace as a Chrome Enterprise recommended partner. It's not a coincidence that Mike and I are co-presenting here. So one other thing to touch on before we jump into some other sections here is just some of the overlap between the two solutions, right? Appspace and Google at large, let alone Chrome OS, right? These are platforms that enable a ton of different experiences, and there's a lot of synergy. So even in that middle category, right? Workplace communications, workplace experience, resource scheduling, like maybe room booking, collaboration, engagement, and so on. These are areas where both platforms shine. And when you've got them stacked on top of each other, right? Integrated the way that they are, it really enables a lot of cool experiences and consistent cohesive experiences for employees, which I think is also critical, because you could have a great strategy, but if all the tech is all over the place and the avenues to get your messaging out is all over the place, it's just not going to be as impactful. And then, of course, each platform have their own other features that can be layered on top and be very complementary as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mike to actually talk about some of the IT management challenges and solutions, as well as a few other things.
Thanks, Will. So the first area I'm going to cover today is simplifying IT management. because fragmented tech stacks can be the bane of your existence. It's Halloween today. They can be very scary. So when your signage tech is scattered, a Linux box here, an Android player over there, it not only costs you time, but introduces limitations, vulnerabilities, and creates unneeded complexity. These materialize in the form of interop issues where systems can't speak to each other, data silos created by technical limitations or unchangeable processes, overly complex software stacks, and just plain limitations of in-place solutions, and potential vendor and security vulnerabilities introduced by these. With Appspace and ChromeOS, you can move to a world of reduced overhead, coherent and usable data, an operating system with 0 reported ransomware attacks ever. You're going to hear me say 0 a lot, but in a good way, like golf, lower is better. Industry-leading content management, and a cloud-first, future-forward infrastructure. With ChromeOS, IT management becomes incredibly straightforward. You gain centralized control over your entire network, the ability to automate essential tasks, remote monitoring and management of devices, and you can easily troubleshoot issues from anywhere, saving time and resources. These are some of the benefits of an OS with built-in first-party device management that was designed from the ground up to be cloud first with security in mind. And again, later on in the demo, we're going to actually show you the admin console so you can see this screenshot preview come to life. And next, we're going to talk about security. So with data breaches on the rise, outdated signage systems are no stranger to vulnerabilities. Right? Digital signage, unfortunately, can be an attack vector for bad actors by unintentionally exposing network interfaces and potentially introducing unsecure software and systems onto an otherwise secure network. On top of that, internal users may even introduce seemingly benign integrations that could contain vulnerabilities. All these can lead to data breaches containing sensitive customer and or internal information, which lead to disruption of IT ops from hours to weeks and potentially irreparable brand damage. Digital signage security isn't just about protecting data, it's about protecting your business. Vulnerabilities within your signage network can have far-reaching consequences, impacting everything from customer trust to business continuity. Security is non-negotiable, and ChromeOS is built with security at its core, offering robust protection against evolving threats and maintaining our stat of 0 reported ransomware attacks. Coupled with Appspace, you're receiving top-of-the-line security in effective and efficient layers, giving you complete peace of mind. And now I think it's always important to hear directly from someone who's benefited from this, first myself and Will. So we're going to jump into a case study that shows how Chrome and ChromeOS can help you modernize workflows, protect your systems, and even recover from a breach.
Sustainability is an integral part of what we do in Nordic Choice.
We have a people, planet, profit method, and we were in a situation where we needed to upgrade a lot of our computer fleet. We started looking into ChromeOS Flex, and we figured out that this could actually be a game changer for us.
ChromeOS Flex made a lot of financial sense as well as sustainability because it meant we can use our devices for longer. Hundreds of kilos of CO2 connected to each new computer is being built.
The security aspect of it was definitely a very important aspect for us. We have around 17,000 employees from 200 different nationalities. We have 70 different languages out there. To give all of them security training would be a massive job. So for us to give them a software that would just let them do their job without having to be a trained security expert was a great opportunity for us. We were on our way to do that when we were hit by a ransomware attack.
I woke up early in the morning and I could see that I had 3 or 4 calls from our IT director.
I remember saying that it was my biggest nightmare that we were going to be attacked.
My first thought was, well, now we are out of business for some weeks, maybe months. That would have been a disaster.
What happens when you're hit by a ransomware attack? First thing you do is that you shut down the internet lines. You cut your company off from the world.
Out of our 220 hotels, 90% of them were affected. It was approximately 5,000 computers.
They had no access to customer data, no access to keycard systems, payment systems, nothing really. They had to do everything manually. The decision to migrate was sort of made within 12 hours of the attack. We could actually fast-track ChromeOS Flex, and instead of cleaning every Windows PC, just converting them.
ChromeOS Flex is so easy to deploy. We could send out all the information to all the hotels really easily.
All the hotels went out and bought a USB stick, downloaded the software, and then we made just a one-pager on how to do it. And then they started migrating all the computers themselves. It was amazing to watch.
From that morning, it took a little over 48 hours to deploy 2,000 computers.
Through ChromeOS Flex, we knew that we could keep the business running with the booking system up and going.
We set up things once and it just works. We can deploy new applications in a matter of minutes. It's kind of magical from an IT admin perspective.
Deployment of ChromeOS Flex really saved us. When you have a stable, safe, and no-hassle operating system at the hotels, that really, really affects our employees and, of course, the guests as well.
I really, really like the fact that we can use technology, innovation, and sustainability together.
Together with the research company PX3, we have seen that over the next 8 years, we will save as much as 1.5 million kilos of CO2. That amounts to 2,000 acres of mature forests. And in addition, it saves 20% electricity for our computer usage.
We're actually making a real difference to the world we're living in.
So in that video, you heard firsthand how ChromeOS can help you not only protect your systems, but also recover in the unfortunate instance of a breach. And ChromeOS Flex, what you heard mentioned a lot, is our version of ChromeOS that can be installed on x86-based systems. So there's one more link that will be coming in the chat where you can learn more about that today. ChromeOS Flex is free to try and use and install. You have a Chrome extension that will write it to a thumb drive, and you can then install it, set the BIOS boot order, boot from USB. You can wipe the hard drive and completely install ChromeOS Flex, or you can actually run it off the thumb drive if you just want a very lightweight preview. Just keep in mind, if you do run it off the thumb drive, it's going to perform better written to the actual hard drive. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to flip it back to Will for talking about workplace experience.
All right, thanks, Mike. I love seeing that, and I love seeing the impact even beyond, shoring up, right, and dealing with that ransomware attack. It's very cool to see. And by the way, ChromeOS and ChromeOS Flex, right, work great with Appspace too, as far as your signage deployment. So jumping into the next section here, we want to focus on creating that all-in-one workplace experience. So you've got that core foundation, that easy management, rollout, security, and so on. What does it look like to build upon that? To build upon it properly, to create the best experience is, of course, a unified experience. And we alluded to this earlier, but having that cohesive experience across the board, not just for your tech stack, not just for what you're deploying, but of course for the actual tools and the experience for employees as well, right? So what does that look like? Well, it does enhance the employee experience. And again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's not just about the messaging. It's not just about the beautiful content, right? It's that cohesiveness and that engagement. when everything kind of looks and feels the same, when the messaging is consistent, no matter what the medium is, it really is truly more impactful. There's also, of course, increased efficiency, whether it's the IT efficiency of managing a deployment, or it's the communicator, the publisher efficiency of being able to easily get the right messages out at the right time, easily create content. I mean, it's huge, right? If there are the hurdles on either side of that, you're going to get static content. You're going to get less effective comms. There's reducing costs, of course, right? Both potential costs, things we want to avoid, but also just the day-to-day maintenance costs, the deployment costs, and so on. I mean, even in that case study, right, the ease of rolling it out, that they could completely trust those local employees, right, to roll out the ChromeOS Flex deployment because it was so easy. Of course, that's going to reduce costs. You're not shipping people on site to every single site to handle it. It can be handled remotely and easily. Security, Mike just talked a lot about that, so I'm not going to reiterate too much there, but obviously critical. I don't think I need to tell this group. And that scalability and flexibility, which you'll hopefully see a little bit more in the demo as well, how easy it is to roll out at large. So as part of that, right, getting rid of siloed solutions, getting rid of those little point products and all those legacy things that a lot of times build up a communication strategy, a digital signage strategy in a lot of companies today, to really turn these ChromeOS devices into true communication hubs. Again, not just a way to get like a few lines of text on a screen. Another big piece of that, right, goes beyond just the publishing and the actual hardware, but how you're tying in your entire ecosystem. Again, making that seamless and cohesive experience. So maybe tying into other Google Workspace tools, you know, bidirectional calendar synchronization, tying into that Meet hardware, like I mentioned earlier. So those collab devices, when there's not a meeting, when there's not a screen share, you're utilizing to the fullest extent that digital real estate, right? I think that's critical. Other integrations as well, right? Being able to pull in the right data at the right place to get that messaging out there. Same thing, unified and efficient workflow. It's not different software suites, different workflows, different publishing mechanisms for all these different sites and regions, right? It's almost impossible to get a cohesive message out company-wide if that's the case. And so you eliminate that challenge. Whether you have global content or local content or both, and we'll talk about that, right? It's just so much easier when you have this comprehensive unified solution. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, right, maximizing those tech investments, using that existing infrastructure, getting the most out of it, and expanding easily beyond it. So it's not just an immediate roadblock, an immediate hurdle. When you're tasked, right, to do just that, tasked to reach more employees, to get more messaging out there, you don't have to worry about those things. One thing we did want to highlight, another little bit of a case study, a joint Appspace and ChromeOS deployment. Through a good customer of ours, a joint customer, as well as some really cool folks that I've gotten to meet a few times at Costco Wholesale. I think I'll just jump straight in. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a pretty incredible story. Just to set the stage, right? I imagine most people know what Costco is, but just as a little bit of a refresher, 222 billion in net sales. Right, this is a huge company. As it says, they're ranked number 11 on Fortune's top 500, 6th largest retailer globally, 3rd largest in the U.S. Costco's a big deal, right? If you don't go to Costco, you see them, you know of them. And they have 848 locations, 584 in the U.S. Right? It's not just that they're big in scale, but big in footprint. Right? All these different stores and other locations that they're keeping track of, and among all those locations, over 300,000 total employees. Right? And of course, their membership base as well. A lot of people love Costco, and that's pretty evident there with their 123 million membership base, and that's even an older number. We were lucky enough, actually, we just had Appspace. We just had our user conference we call World of Work. We were lucky enough to have some of our friends from Costco there and attending, and one of them introduced themselves as a hot dog and toilet paper salesman, which I don't know if that's vastly underselling or overselling or what, or if that's exactly right to describe his job role, but I can't let this slide pass without sharing that. So what kicked it off, right? Why are we talking about Costco? Well, Costco had a goal and a need to offer their frontline deskless workers greater and timelier access to company info. And of course, that was what you might call a top-down initiative. You know, every communication team, every leadership team wants to make sure they're getting messaging out, right? They're getting critical information out to employees. But this was also a bottom-up ask. Right, this was Costco associates, Costco team members asking for more information, wanting to know about career opportunities and career paths, wanting to know about, you know, company initiatives or where the executive team is driving the business. They wanted to know that stuff. But again, most Costco employees are those frontline workers, those deskless workers. They don't sit in front of a computer screen all day like I do. And so it's not as easy to just, blast an email out or something like that. So they were really looking for a solution to not just get messaging out, but engage their employees. I'm going to read the other bullet points that we're touching on, but that's the critical one, right? That's the goal that took them down this path. But of course, to get there, they had to have an easy to use solution. It had to focus on celebrating great work and teaching the business. Again, this wasn't just an initiative that gets, kind of boring old HR messaging on the screen. They wanted to celebrate what their employees, what their team members were doing, right? And to build that company culture. And for that, it had to be easy to use to get buy-in, not just to read what's on the screen or watch videos or whatever, but actually publish. So along those lines, they needed that ability to schedule content from various internal groups, right? This was a mix of publishers, a mix of communicators, not just top down, not just bottom or side to side, right? From all different directions, all different levels of engagement, all of that to maintain that company culture, which again, if you know anything about Costco, they're huge on that. And I think it really shows. And that was even more critical because this was a time of major expansion for them, right? When you're in the hustle and bustle, when you're just trying to get stuff done during a big major expansion, it can be easy to lose sight of those things, but they're even more critical then. So what did that look like? Well, Costco leveraged the Appspace platform for secure and efficient management of their content, of their communication, and they leveraged ChromeOS, right, to spread that message, to get those screens out to tons and tons of different locations. So they actually deployed over 2,500 ChromeOS devices across North America and Canada as part of this effort. I mean, that's a massive deployment. And again, not just in one big giant corporate headquarters, but all those different locations, right, across North America and Canada. And that being said, it was lightning fast, right? This implementation, all those devices getting content spun up, getting people publishing local messaging, just under 2 months, spanning nearly 600 locations. I mean, that out of all these little bullet points here, I feel like that's the one that speaks for itself. All the things that Mike and I have been talking about, the ability to scale that quickly and get, not just scale, but get that investment and buy-in from Costco team members in just under 2 months. I mean, I work at Appspace and I'm still like blown away by that stat, right? It's absolutely huge. And then of course, going back to that culture, right, is enabling regional and local playlists. So it's not just top-down communication. It's the local store manager. It's local team members contributing to that messaging, highlighting and celebrating each other and local wins to really, pull in employees, get that engagement. And to that end, they empowered about 1,100 active users who were continuously using Appspace and publishing to those ChromeOS powered signage devices to create that content and get that messaging out there. I mean, the buy-in has been huge. The feedback has been amazing of those local folks, right, who are so excited they have this medium, they have this ability to communicate with each other, to highlight all the amazing things that they're doing at that local level. So next, we're going to jump into a little bit of a live demo. I'm going to be jumping around. I'm going to be juggling a few browser windows as we do this, so bear with me. But we want to highlight some of these capabilities we've been talking about, actually show you the real thing versus just some lovely slides, but it's always nice to see the real systems. So let me pull that up. We're going to do a couple of different things here. So like I said, I'm going to be juggling a few windows. So we'll start here. So I've got two windows side by side. Again, I love going full screen. It's probably easier to read, but I think this is critical because on the left, I'm going to be showing you some of those administrative features and management features. And on the right, what you're seeing is actually a live output of a Chromebox. So my camera, right, my webcam is probably very small because I'm presenting, but this is literally a Chromebox, right? It's a Chromebox Micro in this case that's sitting next to me on my desk that I'm running its output instead of to a TV. Right, I'm running it to a capture card. So you can see that's literally the Appspace digital signage playlist that's rotating on my Chromebox sitting next to me. And we'll kind of see how that interacts as we go through these platforms. Because a little bit, hopefully easier to see than if I had like a TV behind me and you're trying to look at my little webcam view. So first, let's take a look at the actual device management. So I'm going to go through a couple of exercises, and Mike, of course, feel free to chime in if there's anything you want me to click on or point out as we go through. But let's set the stage with this particular Chromebox. So this is Google Admin, right? This is the console here. This is where I'm managing this device. This is my own little test sandbox. So not a huge deployment, but I'll get the job done. So very first and foremost, I actually want to apparently log back in. Apologies, give me one second. I thought my session would last long enough. Always the fun of live demos.
And you can see, well, Will logs in. You can see that really you can manage anywhere as Will demos from his Windows device.
Yeah. You will see that. And that is the advantage, right, of both of these platforms being cloud first, is that as long as you have the access, right, role-based permissions and all that good stuff, you can manage where you need to.
And
So I'm going to jump. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you have like an AI software doing the facial boxes on
Yeah.
the. Okay, all right. Just so everybody knows yeah.
Yeah,
If
over
you-
here, my actual live output is trying to look for faces like it's, you know, a camera. So you can ignore that. That's not part of my signage content. So jumping in, this is the Chrome box that I'm showing the output of here. And this shows the power of having that like first party, that native device management. You'll see when I jump over to the Appspace side, we pull a lot of information in, but this truly gives you a ton of control and access beyond what Appspace alone could provide to manage these ChromeOS devices. You can pull in obviously device info, right? All the relevant information, even the kiosk app info. So I can see what version of the Appspace, you know, device app or signage app it's running. I can dig into OS information and so on. We'll probably take a little look at that. But just as a real world example, I'm going to quickly reboot my device, right? I've got that remote control of these devices, as you can see here at the left. So for example, let's say for whatever reason I need to reboot this device, let's click reboot. For our purposes, I want to reboot instantly. Let's go ahead and click it. And you should see at the right away, right? That Chromebox took that command instantly. You can maybe see a tiny little no signal thing because there was no signal, and there it is booting. One thing I want to point out is as you watch this boot, you saw the ChromeOS logo, it's loading, it's going into kiosk mode, it's about to hit the Appspace app, how quick this is, right? This is something I can demo, or I can show on a demo like this, right? We've already moved past the actual device and OS boot. There was Appspace loading, and we're right back to content. I think that itself is also just something to kind of think about or ruminate on. I think it's really powerful. A reboot like that, it's not, you're not waiting for maybe a more kind of weighed down operating system to do its thing and launch the app and get back to what the device should be doing, which is delivering comms, right? So I think even just watching that timing is pretty key.
Yeah, I'll just add two quick things. The custom fields section here, these are completely admin annotated and controllable. Will's very organized, so they almost look like pre-generated. But if he hits the edit button, he can enter any text in there. And that's not just for IT admins, that's actually programmatically readable by the app running on the device. So if you want to set up some kind of advanced configuration with your application, where maybe your app does something different based on its asset ID, or probably more likely based on its location, right? You want different locations, different floors, different countries to do different things. The application at runtime can dynamically pull that info and then do something intelligent with it. Further, these fields are accessible over API as well. So we have two big APIs for the admin console. The directory API, which gives you access to more like the kind of structures that you set up in your devices. And then we have the telemetry API, which is going to give you information like CPU utilization across your fleet and RAM and memory, etc. Yeah, there we go. All the good stuff.
A couple of the things I'll note is, again, having all of these tools available is just key, right? Again, it can go above and beyond what even Appspace as a platform, as powerful as it is, can do. So for example, even taking a remote screenshot, that can be a challenge. If any of you out there have managed a digital signage deployment, sometimes it can be challenging to know what's literally playing on the screen versus what should be playing on the screen. So even a feature like this, which I'll tell it to take a screenshot, we might come back to it. But again, that can be critical too. It's a great way to verify that, to really get eyes on the ground without having physical eyes on the ground, if that makes sense. So another one that I love to highlight, and in fact, there we go, it finished, and there was a screenshot of the time I clicked that. So super, super powerful, super useful. Another thing I'll mention too, before I jump over to the Appspace side, is that it's so easy to configure your ChromeOS devices, well, for any use case, but also for Appspace. So for example, if I go here, instead of looking at my device information, maybe go look at my app information and my kiosk configuration, I can see, if I jump to the right OU here, that I have all of my Chrome boxes in my OU here set up to run in kiosk mode with Appspace. And in fact, I can set all of the various settings I might need, like allowing the Appspace app to manage device power and so on. Another exciting one, which I might demo here in a second, if we have enough time, is auto provisioning and auto registration. So you're not just automatically configuring the ChromeOS device at the OS level, right? Locking in that kiosk mode, making sure it's running the way it should, but also maybe automatically registering, automatically configuring default content for Appspace as well.
Yeah, so this is, just to reiterate, like this is Google's first party device management. Google's OS, Google's usually called like an MDM. And so Will has the device in what we call kiosk mode. So as you saw when he rebooted, the OS effectively locked itself down, knowing that it needs to be in kiosk mode, and ran a single application. So even if someone were to plug in a keyboard or a mouse, there aren't escape hatches, right? So this is just the power of the admin console and this configuration.
So Mike, anything else that you want to make sure we touch on here in the admin console before I flip over to the Appspace admin console?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you could show the same kind of section, if you just open up the hamburger menu, there's the settings page. So I believe the number now is we have over 600 different policies that admins can apply. And again, these are all cloud-based with our first-party device management. So you can set things like if someone is able to completely wipe the device, what we call power wash, is it forced to be re-enrolled back into your admin console? You even have advanced settings like with Chrome's web-based web USB and web serial APIs. You could pre-configure, instead of what you would normally see a user seeing some kind of prompt for, when you use Chrome and a user permission prompt comes up, the admin can pre-configure certain settings so that running applications can gain access to advanced APIs without that user prompt. Because in kiosk mode and in a signage use case, a user prompt doesn't make sense.
All
So
right.
since I'll just answer this question since I see it. So the device management is not real time. We have a defined set of kind of criteria and like time boxes around when that's updated. If you want real-time management around battery or RAM, you can actually do that on device. So we have similar APIs where through Chrome extensions, running applications are actually able to see advanced things like local telemetry data on the actual app that they're using.
Very cool stuff. So let me, I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure we have time for some Q&A at the end. So I'm going to hop back over real quick and just highlight a couple of things on the Appspace side, right? The Appspace admin console as well. I'm not going to do a full Appspace demo, right? We're really talking about these platforms and how they're integrated so tightly and solve all these problems, but just a couple of things I do want to highlight while we have a moment. So one, I'm going to go to the device management section here in Appspace. So of course, Appspace is also going to track all your signage devices. Here in my little sandbox that I'm in right now, I've only got the one, which is the one we're looking at here on the right. But I can see, right, it's ChromeOS, it's online, it's in sync, it has the latest content. I've got my window really shrunk down here, but we can pull also additional information. So, even your content publishers, if you want to give them access, maybe just on the Appspace side, they're still going to be up to date if they care about that type of information. Some do, some don't, but it's a nice way to give some level of visibility right there as well. And of course, maybe even more detailed information about the particular device. So not only are we pulling in some of that information, but maybe that device preview and seeing what content it's currently playing. Like right now, this kind of generic about Appspace playlist, maybe drilling into exactly what content out of that playlist it's going to be looping through. I'm going to jump over. I want to give just, again, a couple of minutes here to talk about what that looks like, actually managing your content and publishing and so on in Appspace. But one thing that's kind of fun that I do want to do is I'm actually going to, while I do that, I'm going to unregister. Again, got my weird browser window position here, but I'm going to unregister this device from Appspace. So this will take a second because the device will kind of check in. It'll realize it's been unregistered. It's not, well, it's no longer associated with my little Appspace account. You'll see that happen on the right as I talk, but that's where some of those Google admin console configuration settings that I mentioned earlier are going to kick in and get it right back to where it should be. So in the meantime, I want to highlight just a couple of quick things in Appspace. One, maybe jump over here to channels. I mentioned earlier that, in fact, there we go. It just got unregistered. So I mentioned earlier that Appspace has that capability, like what was critical for Costco, to mix and match content from different teams, different publishers, different levels, and that's accomplished incredibly easy. So for example, you could have these different channels, these different playlists managed by different groups, right? All role-based access, maybe even approval workflows if you need them, managed at different levels. Maybe they're, international, national, regional, down to a local, local location or even individual screen. All these different playlists mixing and matching so that you have that cohesive communication experience, right? No matter who is contributing and at what level and with what reach. We make it super easy. Additionally, when it comes to that content, you've got a lot of control. So for example, here in this particular playlist, I could click to add content. I could upload things from my PC, or of course, use some of the built-in templates, use some of the built-in features, maybe automatically have all of this branded, right? Have my colors, my logos, my company fonts already locked in so that day-to-day communicators, day-to-day publishers, can't change that. They kind of work within the box you give them to quickly get messaging out to the appropriate screens. And I'll point out, by the way, that automatic re-enrollment and registration already took place. It's synced to the default content. It's right back where it should be. So again, just really, really powerful, the combination of the two platforms. Again, moving quickly, looking at the time here, I just want to highlight some of the other things, right? Again, making this content more dynamic. Any of this content can be published to other areas as well. So for example, our mobile app, right? If you're publishing directly to employees that way, that same content might surface in both places. You might publish it directly in the app with a full article and links and stuff like that, where on the digital sign, they're going to get a formatted for signage version of that automatically, right? With the headline, maybe a quick caption, and that QR code and that engagement information to maybe get them to the full article. Likewise, I might pull in different data sources, different automatic dashboards and things like that, different feeds. So for example, if you've got folks that they live in Google Slides, and they don't even want to know what Appspace is. Great. Do a secure authenticated connection to Google Slides, have them update their slides, and that'll just automatically update and show on the screens. Right? There are all kinds of interesting synergies and integrations there that as a cohesive platform, right, we make that super easy. Social media, weather, YouTube, right, on down the line, whatever you need to get on those screens, mixing and matching different content types. It's not all or nothing. You've got those controls, even pulling in scheduling. So for example, maybe you want a flight board of room availability, or you want to show a floor plan where all the different conference rooms are lit up red or green on the digital sign. So as soon as you step off the elevator, you know where you can go to sit down and get some work done, right? We've got that capability as well with that native integration with Google Calendar. So a lot of capability here, all in one platform. Doesn't matter if it's a standard landscape digital sign, portrait, giant video wall, interactive kiosk, right? It's all managed the same way. And all of these templates that I was showing you there are going to automatically format as well. So you're not recreating every little message you have for every possible scenario that you're going to publish to. Again, it's those efficiencies of having that one platform of reaching all those different endpoints that I think makes your communication folks happy campers compared to where they may be. Last couple of things I'll show, and then I do want to pause for Q&A, make sure we touch on anything that's come in, or just some of the capabilities. So for example, my device, I unregistered it. I had that policy in place, so it's going to automatically re-enroll. But maybe I want to publish additional content, right? Right now it's playing that default playlist, but maybe I also want to add this playlist in the mix. Super easy. I could just automatically add it to the device group. I could publish this entire location. I think it probably auto-registered. I forgot to write this down as the serial number to make it easy to track, which is also a nice feature. But maybe I'll just publish it to all my devices here. Make it quick and easy. Yep, there it is. I knew it was P or F something. So now it's going to automatically publish to this device. So in the background, right, this device is now syncing that extra content, and it's going to incorporate it in its playlist. You know, no more updating or modifications or publishing or anything like that. Your content folks just make changes, maybe jump back here to the edit tab, adjust some scheduling, right? Schedule content to only show certain times or certain times of the day, maybe only Wednesdays and Thursdays, whatever they need to do, they can just do. And then that automatic synchronization is going to take care of it behind the scenes. They don't have to worry about it. In fact, it'll even pre-cache this content, right? If I schedule this for next month, it'll go ahead and pre-cache it. So as soon as that schedule kicks in, playback's immediate. There's no worry about syncing or trying to like live stream those type of things. You don't have to worry about it, right? Again, that's the power there. I also want to note, we of course also collect analytics, device registration trends, and number of devices, content publishing, and so on, role-based access, different publishing mechanisms, that broadcast feature I touched on at the very beginning to take over screens immediately. I mean, anything and everything you want to do in the workplace communications world. I think between Appspace and ChromeOS, we've got you covered. There's way too much for me to go into on this particular webinar. So I'm going to pause there, and maybe we can take a look at any questions that have come in.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. We got a few questions while you guys were chatting. So I'll just go through them, and then Will and Mike, you guys could take over wherever you see feasible. So the first one is, when the network is down locally, how can the signage system still work with a minimum impact?
Wonderful question. Will, do you want it, or?
Yeah, I could certainly speak to it from the Appspace side, and it was great foreshadowing. I kind of touched on it there. One of the great things about the architecture of Appspace's device app, as we call it, that kiosk app that's running on the ChromeOS device, is that it does cache content locally. So you're not going to end up with a black screen or an error message, any kind of interrupted playback. It's going to keep humming along with the content that it has until it's able to reestablish that connection, right? Network is back up, or whatever's going on is resolved. Then it'll phone home, check for any updates, maybe update what it's playing back, but it's going to keep going with what it has. And that even includes that scheduled content, right? So if I schedule something for tomorrow, and then tomorrow, knock on wood here, right? Like there's a network issue, that content's still going to go live because it's already synced that content, it's already synced the instructions. So you have that level of robustness there.
Yeah, so with the power of the web, we actually leverage technology that's called a service worker, if you all are familiar. And so this allows web apps to cache content as they see fit. So this is kind of the underpinning technology where you can completely run a web app offline. Your web app can detect if it's online or offline. It can fall back to cached content, or it can even not know that it's offline, and the service worker sits at a layer. Oh, sorry, my camera's backwards. Sits at a layer like behind the web app and can basically hand it back network requests that it's already stored, so it can just run normally. So you have a lot of flexibility there, but yeah, having a down network is not going to interrupt your signage.
Another question we had, any licensing requirements for the amount of kiosks?
So oh yeah, I'll talk about the platform. So part of what Will showed through our admin console, so that does have a fee. That's part of our device management. You do pay a licensing fee for that. It is approximately $50 per year if you want access to everything. So ChromeOS has a few different modes. We've really only talked about kiosk mode, which is what you're gonna run signage in. If you want a kiosk only license, it's half price. It's approximately $25 US MSRP annually. Of course, there's different currencies and slight variations there, but that's the rough fee you're looking at for Chrome OS device management. And then, Will?
Yeah, and on the Appspace side, kind of a similar story, right? There has to be a license for that device. We have to know what Chrome OS device is, calling into Appspace and requesting content and so on. So there is a per device license. It's based around a subscription level or kind of economy of scale. So the bigger you go with Appspace, right, the more Chrome devices you have displaying signage or operating as a kiosk or whatever, the cheaper per unit cost. This is where I get to use the excuse that I have technical in my title, not sales. So I don't have the full price list in front of me, but happy to get that to you, after the event. But the big thing I'll point out is that license on the Appspace side enables any and all experience. So whether it's a classic digital sign, interactive kiosk, maybe a visitor welcoming kiosk powered by Chrome OS, or even like a giant, LED wall that a Chrome OS is like video wall style display, it's the same license. Right, an endpoint is an endpoint as far as Appspace goes. So just get the content, get the experience you need on that device, and call it a day.
All right, we got 2 more questions on the docket. The next one is, does it allow IT admin to set up a local server to manage the signage system?
Okay, so Appspace, we are a cloud-first platform. That's where you're going to see all the new shiny fun features as we roll them out. We're constantly releasing new fun things to play with. But we do have an on-premise variant. There are some features of the overall platform that honestly we haven't even talked about today that are really cloud only, especially around maybe workplace management as opposed to the workplace communications. But as far as signage, that is potentially an option. Again, for ease of deployment, for scalability, I'm always a big fan of cloud. But if that is a critical requirement, maybe based on industry or something like that, definitely you reach out and we can get you more info there.
All right, another question I see is from Colin. It says, can the content include an arbitrary URL? If so, is it possible to handle a username and password login on that page?
Ooh, this is a big question for just the few minutes we have left. So yes, as Mike mentioned, right, Appspace is a web app. It's running on this native Chrome OS platform that handles web content like a champ. Another reason I'm a big fan there. So you could publish, either the only thing you publish or maybe part of your playlist, or I didn't even touch on, carving up the screen. Maybe you get your playlist on the left and that URL at the right, something like that. You certainly can. When it comes to authentication, yes, it's possible is the short answer. The slightly longer answer is it depends on that other system and what it allows. A lot of platforms out there, they're designed with security in mind, so they don't allow, easy ways to automate that authentication. But again, it's certainly possible. Some of those are out of the box when I was clicking through quickly in the platform. Others, we can work with you to figure out that avenue, whether it's via API or security token or whatever, and help you build out. So again, that's another one where I definitely recommend reaching out, because depending on what you're trying to show, right, the different protocols in play is where that conversation is going to go.
So those are the only other questions I've seen, unless anyone has anything in the next 2 minutes. Feel free to throw them in there. Otherwise, we'll wrap up here in a second.
I'll just add, when we had the question on offline, running offline, Josh was kind enough. We have an article from our chromeos.dev site that talks, it dives into some of the APIs and service workers and higher level frameworks like Workbox. So you can, if you'd like, you can have a glance through that kind of tech guide crash course on managing content offline on the web.
All right, well, I don't see any more questions, so thank you, everyone. I'll hand it back to Avixa.
Okay, wow, that was amazing stuff, guys. Thank you so much. And I'd love to thank all of our attendees for joining us on today's webinar, Elevate Your Digital Signage, Appspace and Chrome OS. This recording, minus the slides, will be available on the Avixa website here at www.avixa.org/webinars within about 5 to 7 business days. And that half of renewal unit will be applied to your transcripts within the same time frame. If you have any trouble here, please contact the Avixa webinar team directly at webinars@avixa.org. An important side note for the CTS holders, if you registered for the webinar with an email address other than the one that's on file for you, you won't get credit for attending, and it'll have to be corrected on the back end. So if this is the case, what you should do is email your account rep. We're at membership@avixa.org, and let us know that you used the wrong email address, and then we'll get it corrected for you there. We want to take the time out to thank today's sponsor, Appspace and ChromeOS, and a huge thank you to Will and Mike for helping us to understand how Appspace and the Chrome OS can transform static screens into dynamic communication hubs. Please be sure to continue the conversation and connections made today by joining the Avixa Exchange. It's an AV provider directory and year-round community where you can grow your network and stay updated on industry trends. We hope you've enjoyed today's presentation. Thank you so much and make it a great day.